Everyone in my town sleeps during the day. I know what you're thinking, and no, we're not vampires, nor are we any other kind of non-human entity. We are just regular people in what would look like a regular town. However, we come alive in the night. School starts at 9 p.m. and goes until 2 a.m. Everyone is expected home by 5:30 in what would be your morning. Our time spent outside may seem shorter than yours, but that's because we must be in until sunset and return before sunrise, shades drawn. Because we were always in during the day, our eyes are not well adjusted to bright light, and as such we rarely, if ever, have our shades up even the slightest bit. Anyways, we'd lived like this for so long, no one really questioned it. If someone did though, there were all kinds of stories to deter them. The moral of all of them was don't go outside during the day or you'll never come back. Most people listened, but I'll always remember my one friend who didn't. We were in second grade, and my best friend at the time, Alex, a chubby blonde kid with freckles and green eyes, said while walking home from school, "Hey Dan, have you ever seen what's out there?" I looked at him, my gaze breaking from looking at my feet. "No dude, that's not safe." "I know, I was just a skin." "I really wanna know." "Yeah, but you know that's a bad idea. That's how kids go missing, remember?" "You know that's fake, it has to be. Ken says his friend did it and he came back fine." Ken was Alex's older brother, and he was always messing with Alex. "He's lying dude, no one's done that. Remember, the mayor said. That guy's full of baloney shit. I'm gonna do it tonight, and I'll tell you all about it tomorrow at school. I mean come on, imagine how cool I'll be. Everyone will want to talk to me, and we can make friends with the popular kids." Again I warned him, but he was always stubborn. Besides, I didn't think he'd really do it. I realized the worst though when he didn't show up at school the next day. I left the classroom immediately and ran to his house, finding his driveway full of cop cars and his mom sobbing on the front step. Alex had snuck out a few hours after telling me he would, and I guess he never came back. From then on, I knew something was very wrong when the sun came out, and never even thought about trying to see what was out there. Flash forward to this year, I'm 18 now and graduating from high school. Alex has become yet another cautionary tale, and while I missed him, life had to go on. Normally, kids graduated and stayed in town, whether they attended our local community college or joined the workforce. However, I had shown great promise academically, and had to apply to a big university across the country. Most people were deterred from leaving and didn't want to adjust to a whole new sleep schedule, so I was an anomaly. When I found the fat envelope on my porch, the one that said I was accepted and would have my education fully paid for, I knew it was worth the sacrifice. I really didn't have a choice. When I informed my parents of my decision, they were insanely proud of me. I was the first to have the chance to leave in a long time. That being said, I had some work to do before I could go, mainly, getting on a new sleep schedule. I very well couldn't go to college and expect a roommate to be quiet during their normal waking hours, nor were any 1 a.m. classes available. As such, I began the process we called switching. Once summer hit and I had nowhere to be, I began adjusting to what you would consider a regular sleep schedule, an hour at a time. Normally, I would wake up at 8 p.m. and go to bed around 6 or 7 a.m. Now, I was shifting by an hour each week until it was time to leave. 8 p.m. became 9 p.m., and my 7 a.m. bedtime became 8 a.m., etc. I would live pretty normally, but during the times everyone else was sleeping in my town, I'd just sit in my room and watch TV, read, study, or play video games. There were few expectations for me besides the obvious "don't go outside." For the first few weeks, this was fine by me. Once I started spending more and more time alone though, I grew restless. I found my curiosity around what was outside growing, and while the rational me knew to bury it, I was having a hard time doing so. Adjusting to a new schedule was tough, and it got lonely. One day I woke up particularly sleep deprived. The curtains were drawn as always, but the increasingly long times inside were making me stir crazy. At this point, I was getting up at 2 a.m. and going to sleep around noon. It was 10:30 a.m. and I was fighting to stay awake. Everyone was asleep, so there was no one to keep me up, and screens had become tiresome. I knew reading anything would put me right to sleep, and I didn't have many other choices. So, with a foggy mind and a lack of good judgment, I decided to peek behind the curtains. Lazily walking to my window, I didn't even hesitate to pull the heavy fabric aside. Squinting as my eyes adjusted to the exceptionally bright light, it was hard to see at first. As my vision cleared, I saw something surprising, absolutely nothing of interest. The street was the same, the woods across from my house ever peaceful. I was almost disappointed by the lack of fear I felt. I was about to close the curtain when I noticed something moving in the trees. I trained my eyes ahead and nearly jumped out of my skin when a figure emerged. I sighed in relief and settled down when I recognized the figure as a human, and noted the vaguely familiar face. While I couldn't place her, I knew the approximately 30-year-old woman was someone I'd seen before. Again, slightly let down, I started to step away from the glass panes when two more people came out of the woods. One I had never seen before, but the other stopped me dead in my tracks. The blonde mop of hair, distinct freckles and green eyes staring right at me were too much on their own. However, the worst part was that Alex looked exactly as he had the last day I saw him. His short second-grade body hadn't aged a day, and it quickened its pace as he approached my window. Unable to move, I stood there as he got closer until I could hear him speaking to me. "Dad, come out here. It's so nice out, and I got some Pokemon cards you just have to see." Tears slipped down my face at the familiar sound of his voice. My friend, who I had longed so greatly to see, was standing so close, and he looked so happy. I began to feel for the latch on my window to join him outside when I realized why the first woman had looked so familiar. Her face had been plastered all over the news a few years back. A mother who had up and left in the middle of her night, taking her month-old baby with her. Her husband awoke to an empty house and an open door, and everyone knew what had happened. I entirely snapped out of my trance when a little baby, too young to be moving on its own, crawled out of the woods. People, old, young, short, tall, all began emerging from the trees before me. Some of them I recognized, some I had never seen before. The most chilling ones wore old-timey clothes, and I found myself wondering how long they'd been out there. I snapped the curtain closed with such force I almost tore it down, and backed away from Alex's still smiling face in my window. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think I want to. My town must stay inside to avoid these people, if they are even still people, to avoid joining this army the sunlight is creating. I wonder if they wander my town during the light hours, or if they just sensed my presence and emerged. Either way, I'm horrified, and grateful that I have a chance to leave this town. In the back of my mind though, I know I'll forever be afraid of what lurks about in the light of day. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe this channel for more true creepy stories.